Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are diving into a project that is practical and impactful, developing a saving and expenditure management system. Whether you are a beginner or you are experienced developer, this project will teach you skills you can apply to many areas. So in this project we are going to focus on HTML, CSS, PHP, MySQL. So those are the languages we are going to use. So before we get started, here are the tools you will need in order to succeed with that project. So first of all, you're going to need an IDE, the Integrated Development Environment. This is the software we are going to use to write our codes. So the software I will suggest or I'm going to use in this video is called Notepad++. And then another tool you are going to need here, you are going to need a server software, and in this video I'm going to use XAMPP. So if you don't have those softwares installed on your machine, check in the description of this video and install those softwares, and then after that we are going to get started. Now right away, let me assume you have installed those softwares. I'm not going to install them again since I have already having them in my computer. So I'm going to get started right away. So first of all, how do I know that I've got XAMPP installed? If I check on local disk C of my machine, I can see a folder labeled XAMPP. Then for Notepad++, after when I right click on any file, let me say, or any application or anything, I will say option labeled edit with Notepad++. So I've got those two softwares installed. Now let's dive in and start developing our application for today. So first of all, I'm going to start my server. I'm going to go to local disk C. This is where I'm going to go, local disk C. Then I open XAMPP folder. Then I'll scroll down and click on XAMPP control. So after opening XAMPP control, I need to start these two services, the APAC and MySQL. As you can see on my computer, they are started, they are learning APAC and MySQL. So if they are green and here the buttons are showing me that the services are learning. So if I don't want them to learn, I can stop them. But in this case, for our application to work, we need to start them. So because if they are started, we can test our application and see how it works. Then another thing, we shall need a web browser. In this case, I'm going to use Firefox. So for you, you may use Chrome or Firefox, any browser of your choice. Now let's get started. Follow my steps and then we read from the same page. First of all, in my web browser, I'm going to type localhost. And when I connect on localhost, this is what I will see. This is the welcome page. This page is showing me that I'm successfully connected to my server, the XAMPP. Even if I don't have internet, this can work. So now what I'm going to do next, I'm going to go to my XAMPP folder in local disk C. I click on htdocs. I double click on it to open it. Then after in here, I'm going to create a folder that will hold our application for today. So let me create a new folder and name it saving. So that's the folder I have created. You may name it anything. So this is the folder into which we are going to put our application. So let me open the saving folder. And now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create the very first page of my application. Before I start creating the page, this is what I have to first check. I have to make sure that in my folder, the file name extension is visible. So how do I know that? I'm going to click on view. So I'm going to click on view here. Then I come here where there is show or hide group. I make sure that file name extensions is checked. So that box must be checked. If it's not checked, please check it such that you can see the file name extension. So after that, I'm going to come in the space of my folder. I right click, point at new, and then I'm going to create a text document. So if you can see, there is new text document.txt. That .txt comes in because we enabled file name extension. So I'm going to change the name to index. Then I change the .txt part of it to .php. Yeah, so since we are going to deal with PHP file. So now that is the first page of my application. You may name it anything, but it is good to name it index. I will show you why later in this video. Please keep watching. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to open this index file and we put in some codes just to welcome user or the welcome page of our saving application. So I'm going to right click on it, then I click on edit with Notepad++. So this is very important. If you did not download Notepad++, you will not see that option. So I'm going to right click and then click on edit with Notepad++. Good. So our codes are going to be put here. So remember, if you have been watching some of our videos, I introduced to you HTML, and now I know you have got basic knowledge of HTML. So if you don't have any basic knowledge of HTML, please scroll into videos of this channel. You will find videos that will teach you more about HTML. Well, so now let's start writing some codes, HTML codes to structure our application. So remember, we said we shall start by writing document type, doc type HTML. So you remember that. If you remember about HTML, I told you that that is declaration. So we are telling our browser that now we are dealing with a document type HTML, such that we don't do in Quarks mode. So if you watched HTML video, I know you know what Quarks mode mean. So if you have not, I suggest that you first go back and watch the video, because you will need HTML knowledge to develop this application. But if you don't want to go back to watch that video, still you can follow along. I know you will gain much if you watch this. Also, you are going to learn more about HTML. So another thing I'm going to write here, I'm going to write head. Remember, we said a web page has got three parts: the head, the body, and the foot, or what we call the footer. So in the head, I'm going to put the title of our page, and this is going to be saving management system. Good. So that is the title of our page. Now let's cross the title tag. So what we are going to do after that, I may not put some other things in my head like the foot, the meta, and so on. I may stop there by putting the title. I cross the head tag. Then I'm going to come in body, and then I put some information body. Good. So here I'm going to put a title, H2. You remember I talked about those headings. Welcome to saving management system. So that's what I want to put in. And now let's go and check whether our codes have been interpreted. So now if I go back, I open again our browser, then here I'm going to write localhost stroke the folder we named our application. Our application is named saving, so that folder name is what we shall put here, localhost stroke saving. So then we hit enter. Now this is what we are having on screen. So why did we name our file index? If we check in here, our file is named index. So whatever we put in index file is directly interpreted here as the beginning of the page. But if we don't name it index and we name it something like a home, something like a begin.php, then if we type localhost stroke saving, then we have to type the name of that file, home.php. But if we leave it as index.php, even if we don't write it here, that index.php, it will be automatically are fetched by our browser. But if we name it something other than index, then we have to write it right here in the URL or in the link. So now this is what we are developing. So another thing, let's come and we put in a form that will help us to collect our entries. In this form, we need to put in a section that will enable you to enter amount. Then we put in this is what we shall need. Let me sketch for you what we need here. Good, let me get this and we sketch what we need. First of all, we are going to put a box from which you will enter the amount. Then after entering the amount, we are going to create another drop down or another box for you to select the type of action you want to do. For example, you may do saving. So if you select saving and then you click on the button save, so the amount will be saved in the database. So now this is what we shall need. This is our database. A database will look like this. We are going to create a database, and in this database we are going to create a table. Remember, let me talk briefly about database. What is a database? Database, this is a collection of related data. In computer, data is stored in tables, and these tables that store data, they have rows and columns. So these are the rows, this is a column. In a database, each row, this one, we call it a record. Each column, this one, we call it a field. Now you're getting me now. So we are going to create a database with these fields because we need to correct information from our entries and store that information in the database. So these are the fields we shall need. Let me have field 1 to store the amount. So I'm just showing you how our database is going to be looking like. Then field 2 to store the type. In this type, I mean it will be either saving or expenditure. Then I think that is what we need. Amount and type. That's what I think we need. So I will show you how we can modify our database to fetch only the savings or to fetch only the expenditures. But we only need that. Another thing I need to talk about a database before I leave this. A database in a computer, a database must not have records that are uniform or the same. For example, let's say I'm having amount as 2000. I have entered my 2000 using my application, as we are going to see, and those 2000 shillings are for saving. I should never again create another record that is having 2000 for saving. So if I try to create another record with 2000 and type saving, this record will not be accepted by the database. So, but in real life, it is possible to create two records. It is possible to save 2000 shillings more than once. So how do we solve that? Then we need another field that will uniquely identify these records, and that field that uniquely identifies those records is called a primary key. A primary key field is very, very important here. And then our table is going to have another field labeled ID, and this ID field is going to serve as a primary key. Primary key means if this field is given ID 1, then there may not be any other field with that ID 1. Therefore, that the field ID, since it's going to be a primary key, it should only have unique characters. What is here must not appear again. Therefore, to set that, we shall need a computer to enter those characters such that for us humans, we may make a mistake. I may enter one and I may forget that I have already entered one. So I will command a computer to give this ID field unique numbers. We shall see how to do that. So now let's go and we design our table in the database. So remember, our table has got 3 fields. So now you know that these are fields: the ID, amount, and type. Let's go. How do we design this database? To design our database, I'm going to open the browser. Let me go in a new tab. I'm going to open localhost stroke PHP my admin. PHP my admin. So that's what I need, and I'm going to press enter. So if I press enter, it will connect, and then a PHP my admin panel will be opened. Remember, to do all these, I don't need internet access. I don't need internet connection. So all I need is to install XAMPP. If you install XAMPP, everything will be okay. Well, it has taken a little bit longer, but I think it will open because my XAMPP is learning. Well, now it has opened. Good. So what do I need now? I may not take you through all the features of XAMPP or all the features of PHP my admin, but I will take you through them in the next coming videos. So please consider to subscribe. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click on new, such that I create a new database. So if I click on new, then I'll come here where there is database name. I'm going to click on, I'm going to enter the database name. You may put anything of your choice, but for me, I'm going to name it saving. So I click on create. So after creating my database, saving, it is here. Now it's showing me create new table. So as you have seen here in our picture, we have said we are going to create a table with there are 3 fields or 3 columns. So what is the table name? So table name, I'm going to name it as entries. So you may name it any of your choice. So but since we are in a tutorial, please name it as I've done. And if you get that knowledge of creating your own table, you will later name it anything you want. So how many columns do we need, or how many fields? If we check in our image, we need 3 fields. We shall need ID, amount, and type. So let's now enter the fields. We shall need 3. Then let's click on create. Good. So after creating our table, this is what we are going to get. So we are going to get these options: name, type, length, default, correlation, attribute, null, and index. I'm going to choose only the important ones, and then I show you how to set the table. So the very first thing here in the name column, this line, I'm going to put in the name of my columns or fields. If we check in our image, these are the names we have assigned to these fields. So ID, amount, and type. So I'm going to enter them. ID. Then the next name will be amount. They are case sensitive. So if you decide to use capital letters, use capital letters. If you decide to use a capital and small letters, do that. And please don't forget to color that in your codes, as we are going to see. Then here there is type. Another thing, the type here means the data type we are going to enter in the table. Now going back to our image, each value or each entry we put in our table has got a data type. For example, if we put number, it's data type number. If we put words, it is data type text. Now for ID, it will be a number. So I'm going to leave it in integer. Int means integer. Amount, still it will be a number. I can leave it in integer. Or I can put it in a varchar. Varchar means a variable character. Good. So I'm going to use a variable. So we are going to understand very soon what a variable is. So for the list, let me use variable character. But for the ID, let me leave it in integer. You are going to understand what a variable is. Now another thing, length. So what is the length of the letters and digits I want that field to hold? So for integer, the ID, the integer type, holds a maximum of 200 255 characters. It cannot exceed that. So it means I may put it as 255 or I may put 100. Then amount, how many characters do I want? Let me put 100 for all of them. Default, let me leave that to none, such that it is none, because we shall tell computer to automatically put in numbers that are supposed to go there. Then amount, I may put it to null, and type, I may put it to null. Good. Now another thing, this is very important. So far we have not set the ID column or the ID field as our primary key. Primary key means it's the field that uniquely identify other fields in the database. Now let me scroll this. I come this side and I tell it AI. I switch on the AI. AI means auto increment. Auto increment means the numbers will go on increasing themselves. I do not be having to set them manually. So if I switch on auto increment, it will get this primary. So now it's our primary key field. Now let me scroll down and click on save. Good. So our database has been created and the table has been created called entries in the database of saving. Let's go back to our management system and we put in the three inputs. As we have said, we are going to put an input for user to enter the amount. We put the select input for user to select the type, and then we put in the saving button. Let's go back to our codes and rewrite that. So I'm going to write form action equals on page. So I will explain this. I'm going to explain every part of this. Form action equals, so I will explain what it means. Method equals post. Good. Now I'm going to come and say label. Enter amount. Label. Then I'm going to come the R. So I put input type equals text. Let me make it text. Good. Name equals amount. Good. So BR, so don't be afraid, I'm going to explain every part of that code. BR table select name equals type option value equals saving option value equals expand. Sorry, there is a simple error here. Up, need to debug it. Good. So here I cross the select, then the error input type equals submit name equals save form. Well, thank you. That's the code I have made so far for us to enter our entries. And actually, let me explain every part of this code such that you can understand what it does. For those who know HTML, this may not be a very tight part for you, but I'm going to explain for those who don't know about HTML. Actually, let me get the photo right from line 8 up to line 20. Good. So what does this code mean? It may look awkward to you, it may look something very difficult to you, but let me break it down into parts. First of all, if you look at my code, there is form tag. Actually, let me get this on screen pen, and then this one. Good. So now I'm going to make sure that I explain this. The form tag, this one, that is the tag that I have used to create the form. Form, that is the one that is going to hold our entries. Then inside form tag, I can see form, that's the tag. Action equals, this action means where do I want that form to be submitted after filling it. Let's take an example. You are in school, and you're just a new student, and you give him a form. Then you tell him, fill that form and take it to head teacher's office. That is the same thing we do here. So we say form action equals where we want the user to be directed after filling the form. So that's what we put in action. If you can see, action equals where we want that user to go. That's what we put inside the tags. For example, in my case of edit teacher, I would say action equals edit teacher. Good. Now suppose we are having another page here in our project folder. So if we are having a page called labeled home.php, and we want the user to be taken to that page after filling the form, that's what we put here, home.php. Good. I think now you have got to know the meaning of action. But in this case, if I leave it blank, it means if user fills the form, he or she must be remained on that page. After filling the form, the user must stay on that page. So that's what action means. Well, now let's proceed. Method equals post. Good. Now we are having to, I'm going again to use the headmaster's analogy. When you are in school, when you are in school, a new student may come, you tell him, go to head teacher's office, fetch the form and fill it from here. Have you heard what I've said? Fetch the form and fill it from here. We are having two methods in this case. We are having a method called post, and we are having a method called get. If I tell a student, go to head teacher's office, fetch the form, fill it, this means I have used the method equals get, because the student is going to fetch the form. But if I want that student to fill the form, and after filling it, taking it to head teacher's office, then I will use the method called post. In the post method, it is the user to take the form there. In the get method, it is user to fetch the form from there. So in this case, let's see, I have done home.php, that after user filling the form, we take him to home.php. But when he goes to home.php, whatever he has filled in the form will be posted, will be taken to that page. Now, since we don't want user to be taken to that page, we want the user to remain on this page, then we are telling the user form action equals to this page, but whatever you are going to fill in that form, we are going to throw it to this page. In this case, we are telling the user, I'm going to use the headmaster, the school analogy, that fill the form and leave it there. That's what we want. So after user entering whatever is going to enter in our form here, so we are going to tell him leave it there so that we can process it. We process what is going to enter here. So that is the form action equals post. Then label, I think that is simple. Just we are labeling, and this BR stands for new line, blank rule. So after labeling enter amount, you can see there is a new line. Then input, that is the box the user is going to use to enter the amount. Type equals text. In that box, we need the user to enter the text. And text means it can accept strings. Strings, I mean a mixture of letters and digits. Then, if you want user, this input to restrict user only to enter digits, then you change type equals number. So if you change type equals number, a user will be restricted to enter only digits and letters. When he enters letters, it will not accept. If he tries to submit, it will ask him please enter a number. Good. Name equals amount. These fields, these inputs, everything in our form must be named. Why do we name the everything in our form, the inputs, the buttons, and so on? We name them just to be able to listen to them. We are going to use PHP, that's the language we are going to use to listen to whatever has been typed by the user into our form. So we cannot listen to what the user has entered unless if we name these inputs. If we name them, then we can tell PHP that you listen to something named this and tell us what the user has entered. So that's the reason why we name them. So we have said name equals amount. So you may name it any. So I will show you how to use PHP to listen to these fields using name. Then BR, I think that's blank rule, you know that. Rebel, then I did not rebel this, so let me rebel it as select type. Good. So I'm going to cross label tag. If you don't know HTML, first go back and watch the other video about HTML. So I'm going to create blank rule. Now let me explain select. If you look at our page here, select, it is giving us options for us to select one. That's what we call select. We have called select name equals, I think you know why we are naming it, for a PHP to listen to it. Then after opening selected tag, inside it we are putting in the options. You can see we are having saving and expenditure options. So how do we put them in? So let's see, option value equals saving, and then we write again saving outside the tag, and then we cross option tag. Let's first analyze this option tag. Good. Let's explain every part of this option tag for you. The very first thing, that's the tag we are opening. Then we see a value, and then value is given something inside. What does that mean? This inside part of option, the value, this is what will be saved in the database when user selects that option. Let me repeat. When user selects saving as the option from the list, for example, when user selects saving from our list, what we are going to save in the database is this thing we put in the value. Then what we put outside here is what the user sees. Let me make it clear for you. I may want, when user selects option called I am saving, so if I change it to I'm saving, this is what user is going to see. But if he selects that option in a database, it will not be saved as I'm saving. It will be saved as saving. because that is what we are having in the value. So this value is what will be saved in the database. The user cannot see this. Then what we put out here is what the user can see. So I think that also applies to expenditure. So here I may say I'm spending, but now I'm sure you know what will be saved in database. I'm spending. Good. So after doing all that, we put in as many options as we want. You may consider writing your other options. Then you cross the select tag. Then another thing we are going to do, let's create a blank rule, and we put a button that will submit our form. Input type equals submit. That's the button that is going to submit our form. Name equals save. You give it a name such that our PHP codes can listen. Remember, we are going to use PHP to save whatever user has entered in the table, rather to save whatever user has entered in the form into our database. Therefore, we need to give them names so that they can be listened to. Another thing, if you look at our button, it's labeled submit query, but for us, we may want it to give it another name like save me or save. So I will say value equals save me. Good. So now we have written our form. Oh, sorry, I have used double quotes here. Let me use them. We have written our form, and this is the one. Good. So if you look at our select now, there is I'm saving, I'm spending. But if user selects I'm saving, what will be saved in database? It is saving. If user selects I'm spending, what will be saved in database is expenditure. Well, so now we have successfully created our form. Let's see how we are going to fetch what users entered into our form into our database. Let's first test the form by entering some random values. Let me enter 7,000. I say I'm saving, I save. Save me. It has now become empty. But if we check in our database, is there something? The answer is there is nothing, because we have not yet listened to what users entered so that we can save it in database. Let's now get started. This is important part, and now this is what we call programming. So we are going to use programming language called PHP to see how to save the data. Remember, HTML is not programming, and we have not been programming, but we have been structuring our web page, so using HTML. But now what we have started programming. Let me create space here so that I can put my PHP codes here. PHP stands for Hypertext Preprocessor. Hypertext Preprocessor. This is what we should know. The PHP codes start with less than question mark PHP, then ends with question mark greater than. Whatever I put in here, in between these elements, in between this and this, is supposed to be PHP code. So quote me well. If you want to write PHP code, you have to write it inside those opening and closing tags. Good. So now you have got to know how we write our PHP. Now let me show you how we are going to use PHP to listen to our form. First of all, I'm going to tell PHP to listen. The very first thing we are going to listen to whether this button is clicked. So if we check in our page, we are going to listen whether a user has clicked this button. That's the first thing we need. Because this form is submitted by this button, therefore we have to first listen. Has the user clicked this button? Is this button is set? That's what we have to ask ourselves. Is the button is set? So in this case, clicking the button, we are going to call it setting. So is button is set? If I click it, means I have set it. Now let's see. I'm going to come and say in PHP code, if singa if I have used Luganda. Okay, it's okay. I think we can all understand it. If let me open it. The bracket. In PHP, I may not go in details of PHP because I've already made a video about it. You may go in my videos and check. But let me make a simple recap just to show you what I'm testing. Let's suppose that I'm having two people. I'm having person A as a girl. Sorry. Then I'm also having, this is my person A girl, and I'm having person B a boy. So I just want to show you how if works in HTML. Now, I want to check whether person A is a girl. So how will I write that code? I will say if. What do I want to check? In PHP, what I'm checking must be inside brackets. Then, what do I say after checking? Or what do I want to do after checking? And the check is correct. Then what I want to say must be inside those curly brackets. Have you seen? So this, what I put inside brackets, the condition I'm checking. Then, after checking the condition and I find it right, what should I say what to do? If the condition is right. If I check something and I find it right, what should I do? So what I want the computer to do, that's what I put here. If I find it not right, what should I do? So what I want it to do, if it checks and the condition is not right, then I put it in else. So what to do? What to do if not right will be put in else. So that's the if tag. That's how we use if. If the condition I'm checking, what to do if it is right. Then what to do if it is not right, then I put it in else. Let's test this. Today is a Sunday. Today is a Sunday. I want to check, is today Sunday? If it is Sunday, I show it on screen that it is Sunday. If it is not Sunday, I show that yes, it is not Sunday. So I'm not going to use the right code, but I'm just going to use the word thing as I have showed you here up. So I'm going to say if today is Sunday. So that's the condition I'm checking. If today is Sunday. So that's the condition I'm checking. So what should I say if today is a Sunday? So what I should say if today is a Sunday, I will say yes, it is a Sunday. Then if it is not Sunday and the check has confirmed it is not Sunday, what I will say, I put it in else. It is not Sunday. So that's how we use if in PHP. If you understand how to use these conditions, how to check using if, PHP will become easy for you. So what you have to know, after opening if, then in brackets we are putting in the condition we are checking, and then if it's right, we show the curly brackets to put out what it has checked, or the results after the check. And if it's not right, we put the else. Now let's go and write our code to listen to the code. So we are going to listen. We are going to say if the button is set. So we are going to say if. Remember, in if we do that, you know the reason for doing that. So I may extend this a bit, and I may extend that curly bracket to create space. If, this is another important thing. Whatever is coming from the form, if we want to listen whatever is coming from the form, we use this command, $_ post. You see that? Whatever is coming from the form, we are listening to the button which is in the form. We shall see how to listen to this select input which is in the form. We shall see how to listen to this amount input which is in the form. So whatever we listen to from the form, we use $_ post. So let's see how we are going to write this. So we are going to say if is set. What is set? If an is set, what we are checking if it is set goes inside the bracket. Let's first analyze this is set part only. Let me give it a space and we analyze it. This is set. How does it work? Is set checks whether something has been set. I think that makes sense. If I want to check whether something has been set, for example, we agreed that clicking this button means setting it. I want to check if this button is set. So I have said if is set. Is set. So what I want to check that it is set must be inside is set brackets. The brackets outside here are for if. Even is set, what I'm checking that it is set must be inside the brackets. So let's go and put in the button where we want to check. Remember, this button is coming from form, and we have said to listen to anything from form, we use $_ post. Then we put the name. We named that button. We named it save. So I will say square brackets save. We use the smaller letters. That is now the correct code. So I have tried to break it down. So if we listen to save button that it is clicked, then what should we do? What we are going to do is what we are going to put inside these curly brackets just below here. So if it is clicked, that is if it is set, then what we are going to do is what we are going to put down here. Please allow me to stop here and I come again in part 2. So in part 2 we are going to proceed from there, and then we save our data into database. Please subscribe and don't forget to like this video, and please watch out for part 2. It's going to be released very soon, and probably today immediately after posting this part 1. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kazwe Patrick. I love you so much. Let's meet in part 2 of this video.